like a week or two after the Chicago, the PSP. and welcome to the GI Show. I'm Nick Slowiak with my special co-host, Steve Rabackoff, and special guest, Tom Cole from the NXL. Hi, Tom.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for driving 6 hours to get here from North Dakota.
It's actually only 3.5 hours, and I live in like Daytona Beach. But yeah, but
okay.
Are you nervous?
Same old.
Jeez, hitting him with a nervous shot already. Well, hey guys, welcome. Thank you for joining us here for our show. Wow, okay, I can hear myself in my ear. That kind of freaked me out. I thought that was Darren talking to me. Sorry about that. Got a little scared there. Going to talk to you guys about some current events that we just hit up. Stuff going on. We got a bunch of questions for Tom Cole. Again, you guys watching, if you do have any questions, please post them up in the chat because we have Tom Cole here, and I know everyone's got questions for Tom Cole. If you have questions for his dog, bark twice if you're in Milwaukee. We'll get to those later.
And we'll have a picture of Tom's dog. He's pretty famous on Facebook.
He's got his own page.
He's got his own page. I think he has more likes possibly than
That's
Tom.
not even a question. He's way cooler than I am, so why would he not have more likes?
That's funny. Well, so Rab, let's talk about events that just happened. You were at KC Crusaders in Washington?
Yep, outside of Seattle, Washington, and it was a 24-hour game. Second year in a row I went, and it's just a fun game because you go to a lot of games and you see sometimes they'll have a creek and you'll cruise through a creek, but they got a serious river, fish going through it, and you have to
There's fish in the river?
Oh yeah, I mean some of these creeks that you go to, there's nothing in those creeks, but I'm just saying that this was an active river here, and you had to make that decision if you wanted to go in it.
Did you ford the river?
Oh, me and Rich Telford decided we weren't going to go in it because last year we spent pretty much the whole day in the river, and we decided we wouldn't do that this year. But 5 minutes I was in the river. So
you've gone through any rivers in your day, Tom?
I have gone through rivers in my day, and I wonder if the water was cold.
It was cold.
It was Washington State.
And it was overcast, and there's a lot of fires up in Vancouver, so a lot of that smoke was down. You couldn't see Mount Rainier at all. Usually last year we saw it, so it was pretty interesting.
Richmond's event, the 3-man, I went in the river in Montreal.
Oh,
I think.
in the indoor in Tombstone?
Yep, that's where I burnt the hotel down, but we won't get into that.
Burning
Maybe
hotel.
we will.
Wow, we're
Maybe we
5
will.
minutes in. We're burning hotels down. This is the
Yeah.
best. Tom, you're free next week, right? You can come.
Free
you can
next
come
week,
back.
yeah. Go to the Brandon
I
Hotel.
remember that night because
Yeah.
I was trying to sleep, and then the alarm went off, and they wanted all of us to get out of the building. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But we did have those. We had KC Crusaders over the weekend. We had the NVPS and here in Orlando. They just had their championships. The UWL Masters in Chicago happened over the weekend. So let's take a look at some of the footage we have from KC Crusaders game and see how that went.
Yeah, I want to see you ford a river
Let's see that.
or fall in. So what happened at the MVPS?
So
Because we're going to talk about it.
So this weekend
You were there.
Yeah.
You went. So how about this? You went straight from Seattle,
I got to Seattle on Friday.
and then you flew Saturday night into the MVPS.
Spent the day Saturday, played, hung out with Trish and Tim, who put on the event. BW, Rocky New showed up
I
and
saw
played.
a picture, yeah.
And we had a great day. The event, it was 65 degrees. It was perfect for paintball. And then I got on a plane, did the red eye straight to Orlando, went right to the MVPS and hung out there. And they're an official NXL affiliate, so that was their championship. And it was a great event, looks great. And that was their 5th event of the year. That was their final event. So all their teams now that won their overalls will be heading to NXL to challenge for that North American Championship that we'll talk about here in a few minutes. So
Yeah, I'm hearing the words North American champion. I like the sound of that.
yeah,
Sounds nice. So we do know that that went down this weekend. Tom, let's talk to you about the UWL that just went down at the Badlands Paintball. You were out there. You playing? You reffing?
I was
Bird dogging.
I was attempting to do a live webcast and finding out how challenging that is. Yeah, we did a Facebook Live thing that we were trying to see if it would work, and it was challenging. But I think we learned a lot. The event was fun. We had, the finals are All Americans and Aftershock. I think the Aftershocks calling themselves the Gun Runners or Gunfighters right now, but basically the All Americans versus Aftershock. That's always a little bit of a bloodbath, but it was fun. I mean, everybody had a good time. I mean, I think it's cool that 10-man is making a comeback, and we've switched to the mechanical rules. I know the UWL for a while had a lot of tricky rules, so now we've gone to the it's the understatement.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we're using the mechanical stuff, which I think is a huge plus just for like older guys like us, right? We can play and kind of run around and make things happen, at least try and play. So
So Tom, people know that you're NXL president, but they don't know how long you've been in paintball. Where did it start for you? What was that trigger that said, hey, I want to be involved with paintball? Where did this all start for you?
So I started in I know my first tournament was 1986, which sounds like a long time ago when I say that.
Well, I was one.
You were one. So yeah, that was a while ago. And it's funny because you think there was a 10-cent flyer. Someone had a photocopied flyer to go play paintball for the day, and me and my friends decided to go. And I've played basically pretty much every weekend for the next 20 years. So I can think of how much revenue this industry got off of that one 10-cent flyer.
Oh, that's a good figure.
Yeah, so you got to keep that out there, right? Keep your flyers out there. But I went and played, and we were playing with rental guns. And back then, you just basically the game was just 2 teams at one time, and you would just go out and play every 30 minutes or whatever. And we were young, and the demographic back then was pretty old, so I was probably 16, 17.
And you're probably one of the youngest back then.
I was definitely the youngest guy there. Yeah. And there was a team there called Green Machine, and we had played well against them. We were scrimmaged, so they basically put the rental guys versus the teams, which was tons of fun. But we did good, and the guy came and asked me, he said, we're going on a trip to South Africa in a couple weeks. Would you like to go over there and play a tournament with us? And I thought he was, obviously full of crap.
This was 86?
This is 86, 87.
Wow.
And I don't really trust, he's driving a Mercedes. He's like 50. So I'm like, yeah, get some guys to go to Africa with me. So anyhow.
Oh, my God. No way.
So, yeah. So anyhow, so I go on about my day. And then a couple months later or whatever, I'm at a store. And I see an APG article with that team in South Africa playing and winning, whatever, $20,000 or something. So I was like,
son of a...
Yeah, I really should have went. And they were playing, the South Africans didn't really have the technology we had at the time, which means they were even further behind. And so me and my friends, we were like, well, if we're good enough that they wanted to pick us up, maybe we should start our own team.
Sure.
And so we started playing locally, and it kind of went on from there.
Is that the birth of Bad Company?
That's the birth. That was the original team name, was Bad Company, 1986.
Damn.
So there's the start of Bad Company, and then this is 86, and right at that time, there's, I guess you could say, the Masters is going on.
Yep. So back then it was NSG, which was 15-man. So we were playing 15-man pump tournaments with 12 grams, which was the format back then. Which is why I laugh when people are like, the format's going to destroy stuff. I'm like, we've basically been doing this with every different format known to man: 15, 10-man, 12-gram constant air, compressed gas, all these changes that have been somehow predicted to be the doom of paintball, and yet somehow we just keep plugging along. But yeah, so we played 15-man back in the day, and then we moved on to 10-man, and we played Lively Productions. We went to the Masters, which was an epic event. I think back, like we pulled into this site, Hermitage Landing in Nashville. It's like my first pro tournament, and there was only one division back then, pro.
Yeah.
And it just seemed epic. And it was like big circus tents and all this stuff. We just been playing in the woods and places, and it was epic. It's the only word I can use to describe it. And my first draw was like the Lords of Discipline, which is Aftershock back then. Sudden Death, which is the team that Dave Youngblood ended up coming from, and someone else. And we had a bet amongst our team. It was $100 for the most kills. First kill and most kills, and that bet went uncollected the first day. We shot 0 people. And my buddy Spud, who I didn't know at the time, after we played him, he was like, you guys can hide, right? You don't have to just get shot right away. You can hide. It's like, thanks, Spud. We'll take that as a word of advice for the rest of my life. So now I try to hide.
Aftershock Spud.
Aftershock Spud, who used to play for the Lords of Discipline back then.
Yeah, those guys were nasty.
You guys can hide.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat us in like 17 seconds, right? So like,
and this is
in the woods. It was big.
This
I don't even know how they could run that fast.
Is this 15?
No, this is 5-man. We played a 5-man.
So
our entry level was 5-man. So we played some NSG 15-mans. We were way outclassed there. And the 5-man, we thought we had a chance because we were winning a lot of local 5-man tournaments at the time, and we just. We were playing way above our caliber at that point, but it was fun, you know what I mean? And we got to play these people that we saw in the magazines and look up to. We're in line, like we're supposed to be chronographing, which we've never even done before. And like I'm sitting next to Machine Gun Mike, which is a guy that used to play back in California back in the day. Oh, we played the Ironman too. That's the other team. So Ironman, Sudden Death, Aftershock basically was our first draw. Tons of fun. And, and I'm just looking at this guy in line. All I want to do is get his autograph. I'm supposed to be chronographing and paying attention to what we're doing, and I'm just in awe.
They're calling you on the field, and you're getting autographs.
Yep.
Did you ever find out who that team was that you could have went to South Africa for?
Yeah, it was Green Machine.
Oh,
yeah,
it was Green Machine.
Green
Okay,
Machine. No,
that's
they
what
went
I
to
said.
go
And
play.
they were around for a little while.
They were around, and they played a lot of
'Cause
international
I ended up
events.
Did you ever play
later
them?
on.
Yeah, we ended up playing them. We actually ended up stealing a lot of their people as we went on, right? Because they did get some younger players, and we ended up stealing Jackie George, who was just, we knew that was going to
We
happen.
knew that's what called it.
Jackie George, one of the players, just played with us at ICC. He came from Green Machine
Okay.
back in the day. So
Wow.
So this is 86 still? Or
80, this is 89. Now we've moved up to 89.
I'm walking at this point,
Yeah.
talking.
You're-
Who knows what else?
It'll come around full circle.
Yeah.
It'll come around full circle. So this is 89. So and this is the Masters, and then I guess we can give a little discussion about the NPPL and how all that started. So back then it was called the Contingency Series, but it was basically ran by one paint company, which is RP Shear, and paint back then was I think $110 a box, which everybody's going to find absurd. But
110, yeah, 120, yeah.
110, 120, right? So, and we couldn't shoot what we wanted. So that was one of the frustrations amongst the teams is that, you showed up and you just bought paint off the truck and you never knew the quality. And
Yep.
some of the bigger name teams were sponsored at this point. So they couldn't even use their own sponsored paint at the event. So we were getting kicked back from that. So there was a meeting called in Chicago amongst the top 13 teams, and we got invited. And I think I'm like 21 at this point or something, or 20, and I'm in a room with all these people that have basically been people I look up to the entire time, and they want to create a new league and call it the NPPL. And I remember getting huge kickback from the industry saying, we're never going to support it and yada, 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 because they wanted to be with
This was
live.
what, 91, right? 91, 92?
92, yeah, right around
Because-
92.
because-
So the first NPPL was in 93.
Yeah, and that was the first one I played. I think it was DC. You had the DC
DC
Open.
Cup, yeah. That was
You
probably
had
in 93.
Dallas.
Yep.
That was the year that was
That
freezing.
was the year.
like,
Yep, freezing in
freezing.
Dallas. Yeah, it was cold.
California.
And then we went to somewhere in Reno or something where the
Yeah.
Bears were.
Yeah.
I think they
And
gave
rattlesnakes.
Image the Bears.
Yeah.
But so Bob Long became the.
This is
yeah,
true. This
This
is
is a true story. Yeah, they put like dead fish or donuts or something on the Image, which
To try and
was it
attract
called
the
Image? I don't
bear?
think it was called
No.
Image back then. It was
No.
the Rats or
Yeah.
something. It's hard to like a team called the Rats, especially their logo was "We don't die, we multiply," which doesn't really fit well with the paintball mantra, right? Because
Yeah.
when I shot them, I felt like they weren't going to die and they were going to multiply.
Man,
And
this
I
doesn't
think
tell you
they
everything
did.
you need to know.
Oh yeah, some Rat guys currently really mad at me right now. Chris Cole was on the Rats. He was on the Rats back then.
Who else?
I don't know.
Who else is a
anybody
rat?
else.
Okay, good. Don't
None of
become
else
a
has
rat
survived.
yourself.
Yeah, no. But so the 13 people, we made a league, and the first events. I mean, you think we only had 20 teams back then, 20 teams playing an event, and now you think we have 200 playing an event. That's quite.
What
pretty
was the
impressive.
first one? Was it the DC Cup?
I don't know if that was the first event. That was the first year. Because in 94 I became president. So in 93 Bob Long was the president. And then in 94 I became president. So, and I wasn't the president when we ran the DC Cup. I don't think so. Because we just hosted that event.
And you're what, 22?
22, and I don't know why they wanted
Youngest
to be
president ever.
Yeah. Well, there's only one. I think I was president. Yeah, I guess I was president for a long time. And it's funny, and I'm gonna give some more shots. So Fred Schultz was the other guy running for president, and I
Team
nothing-
Constant Pursuit.
Team Constant Pursuit, and nothing against Fred Schultz, but he wasn't competitive the way we were. Like he wasn't concerned about the competitive nature of paintball.
When he would show up at the events, he was playing there, but it was just a relaxed.
Yeah, he was more for the show, right? And I actually just watched him play at Disney the other day and get introduced as the Michael Jordan of paintball. But and so he was the guy running for president, so I decided to run against him. And I was amazed when I won, you know what I mean? Because here I am, I'm like 22. I'm in a room with, Dave Youngblood and Bob Long and the Gardners and Rennick Miller and Jerry Braun, who have all been running tournaments forever.
Right.
So I think they wanted a young face, or
they all just hated him.
and they all, yeah, it's possible.
There's some
They
other
just want
vendetta.
someone
Or
else to
someone
be
they
yelled
thought
at.
they could push around. That's also my
anyone
theory.
but him. You want to be president? No. You
Yeah.
want to be president? No. You pick the kid.
Yeah, pick the kid. But I also thought they were going to get to,
Bully
get
you
their
around
way
a
and
little
bully
bit?
me around a little bit.
I remember those because they had one set of meetings, and then they had another meeting for all the amateur teams. And at the time, I was playing with Houston Heat, so I remember everything getting formed together. And I remember him going, "I think I'm going to be president." I'm like, "Good luck." He did it.
Yeah, tons of fun. Remember when I came to Dallas that one time? We had the Secret Service there because the other real president was there.
Yeah, we were. Quick story, not paintball related. He's coming back from
No idea.
one of his trips out west looking for some exotic
Bird,
poisonous
Animal,
snake.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he stops off in Houston. We're at Olympic paintball. We go, "Hey, let's go go grab something to eat. We go across. It was Fuzzy. It was the Fuzzy's Deli.
Yeah, sounds like Fuzzy's
So
Deli.
we're sitting there at Fuzzy's Deli, me, Tom, Justin, Brandon, and we're sitting there eating, and I just start looking around, and I notice people with earpieces in. I'm like, man, there's a lot of security in here. Like, what is going on in here? I start looking around. I see black, at the time, Suburbans sitting out there. I'm like, man, I think someone famous is in here. So Tom looks to the right, and 5 feet away, President Bush is sitting right there, eating lunch.
No way.
Yeah, it was you.
That's sweet.
So he's sitting there, and I said, Tom, you live in D.C. You never see the president.
And I got to come to Texas.
So we look at him, and we're like, hello, Mr. President. And he's like, hey, how you
how's
doing?
it going?
It was super cool and super awkward at the same time because I didn't expect the president to be sitting right next to us. So.
That's really cool.
In a deli, a little joint that you would never imagine.
And this is outside of
This is right outside
Dallas?
Right outside of Houston, in Memorial Park area where he lives.
I'm trying to think, where's he
currently.
from?
He's from Houston.
He's from Houston. So
So
that makes
it wasn't
from
too
that
far
area.
from.
So it was probably a spot that he knew growing up.
Well, he had a picture on the wall.
Yeah.
Right? They had a picture of him on the
Did
wall.
you guys get a picture with him or anything?
No, we're not that cool.
No,
man,
We
that
were
would've been-
nervous. There's all sorts of dudes in suits with earpieces. You know what I mean? Like,
once we started talking to him and the Secret Service started looking at us, then it was like, all right, stop
Well, I'm
talking.
surprised. I mean, nowadays, if that were to happen, they'd have to come in and like ID you and scan you. There's no way they're just.
I don't know what.
Oh, who knows?
Maybe.
That's off topic.
Off topic.
Let's get past that. Well, one question I'd say I'd like you said Houston Heat. Houston Heat's made a comeback. Do you think maybe a bad company team will ever make a comeback as like a newer bad company? Did you ever lend the name out?
No, I'm not looking to lend the name out. I mean,
Okay.
we play together about twice a year, you know what I mean, for fun. I mean, half the league yells companies when I walk around, so.
Todd loves doing that.
Yeah, I don't really want, you know what I mean? I like playing with my old guys, and I'm not looking for a new team. People hit me up occasionally. JC was like, you want to fund a bad company team? And I'm like, no, I don't want to fund another bad company team. You know?
I had to ask.
But yeah, no. I mean, it was fun when it lasted, and that's. I was just thinking this the other day. Like, we really grew up through the golden age of paintball, right? I'm going from playing in the woods and trying to explain to people what paintball was.
Ping pong.
Yeah, ping pong and all this stuff, and everybody looking at you like you're crazy. Trying to convince my parents that this is what I want to do for a living, and then to now having it be such a mainstream game where everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you ever come home and go, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm the president. I'm the president of the NPPL. I'm the president of a league.
Yeah, I don't remember
Maybe
that
you didn't
exact
boast,
point.
didn't boast about that?
No, I
Okay.
didn't boast about that. I don't
Like, Mom, paintball's awesome. 2 years later, I'm the president.
They, yeah, I don't know how thrilled they were about the paintball in the beginning, but they embraced it. I mean, we went on a road trip. It was funny because it's like maybe 2010, and I'm not half as good as I was back in 2002, right? And so we go in, and my parents have a magazine on the article, and it's like the 1993 Paint Check Player of the Year picture of me, right? So my team is giving me no end of grief because it's like 10 years out of date. My parents still have it on their little coffee table. So
That's awesome.
It's probably
Yeah.
still there.
it's
today.
probably still there. Yeah.
So, all right. So now this is 93, 94. You're the president now. And now we roll into 1995. So I'm going to 95.
Okay,
we
you're
are-
going to the Mounds Field.
I'm going to the Moundsfield because this will tie into all of us just returning from ICC
Yep.
to 1995, which was Bad Company's first pro win.
First pro win, yeah. So we played for a long time, and we were always just like, I'm going to say we were second tier pro team. We were just below the big three. So it was always the Aftershock, All-Americans, and Ironman that pretty much won everything. And they had won everything for as long as anybody had been around. So since, 86, they were the ones winning every event. And we were always, in the top four. We would struggle in, you know what I mean? But once we got into the finals, they were pretty much better than we were at that time. And we were all kids. We were all local guys from my area. So we weren't into the picking up people from out of town and all that stuff. And then we picked up O from California. And we played on the mounts, which we felt fit our style of play. We were pretty aggressive or whatever and liked to be in the open. I mean, if I can get Bob Long
not
in
hiding.
the open,
Not hiding.
You know what I mean? I felt like,
you got Bob Long or any of the teams out there, it was better than playing them in the woods.
It was better playing them in the woods, yeah. So, and the All-Americans were reffing. So, it was just a great tournament. It was a fun tournament, you know what I mean? And the Mounds was something new. And we had a blast, and we ended up winning, and it felt, big weight had been lifted off our back, and I'm sure people like AC Dallas or all these pro teams that are struggling and haven't won one yet. I mean, when you win one, it changes everything, right? From that point on, you're just more comfortable. You got a little more swagger. When you go into the finals, you play like you're there to win it. Whereas before, we were just happy to be in the final, and we're a little surprised. And it's almost like everybody else went up a step, and we kind of went back a step. And, so once you get that off your back, it's a great feeling. So,
I mean, so you're I can agree with you there 100%. But did you won your first pro event on the first Mounds field played at a pro tournament?
Yeah, that was the first.
That's cool. That's really cool.
No,
And
really
that's
cool.
and that's at Urban. Was that at Urban Assault?
Urban Assault, yeah.
And now was that at last year's ICC? Was that the same? Or
It was.
is
We
the
did
field?
play that mound. It wasn't the.
Wasn't
the one we played the finals. No, the one
Right.
that we played at ICC was the one where we played Bob Long. We ended up beating Bob Long on the Mounds field. And then we played the other field, the Star Field, we called it, for the championship.
So who did you play in
Okay.
the finals?
We played Bob Long, Rage, and so it was the Ironman, Aftershock, and Rage.
That was the same year that
you got-
we beat the Ironman. So for Houston Heat to beat a top tier pro team was at that time was
And this is
didn't-
because amateur teams are playing pro
amateur
teams.
teams
and playing
played.
pros.
So we
And you
Just for
could-
everyone, for the
And
sake of
back
everybody else.
then, you could go pro mid-tournament. So
Right.
if you qualified into the top 8, you could just elect to go pro.
and
And if you didn't, you stayed with your
You stayed
within
in your
division.
division.
so that event we beat the Ironman. It was our first team that
I
we
kind of
played.
like that.
And which was for
That's
me, that was the
nice.
team I looked up to. And when we finally beat them, we're like, yeah, this is awesome. But everybody wanted us to turn pro. And
Because they didn't want them in the finals.
If we turned pro, then
So you
then,
bump because you have to then,
Right.
right? If you go pro, you're
You'd be
essentially
pro.
bumping someone out,
You would. So they wouldn't have lost the franchise because we didn't have a franchise. They just wouldn't have played the finals.
They wouldn't have made it.
which would have been huge points for the
Huge
series,
points.
right?
It would be the equivalent of Impact. Suddenly,
Yeah.
And are they done then? They're
no,
No.
they wouldn't be in the running for the series. Is basically.
But
what
so
it
at
was.
that event, so we're playing. You're the 8th team. You're the 8th place team. I'm the amateur team. I qualify for that 8th place spot.
Right.
If I take it, they don't compete anymore? They're
No,
done.
they're done.
So they
Right.
don't.
They
Okay.
would, they would,
so
and everybody, when I say
Wow.
mean everybody, he knows this. They wanted us to
Wow.
turn pro because it sends Ironman out, and you take out a team that wins a lot of
Yeah, so the
tournaments.
All-Americans and Aftershock, who were both in the running for the
well, yeah.
finals.
Who would I rather play?
So we
the
didn't.
Ironman or play Houston Heat? That
has never been in the finals.
exactly on the pro field.
So we didn't turn pro. They ended up winning the tournament. They beat Ironman in the finals. But at that same event, you had a team called Easy Company, which ended up becoming Avalanche. So, and some of those guys were going to play with Houston Heat. So a lot of could have changed by us just turning pro. Everything
Sure.
would have changed, but it worked out for them because they got that pro win.
We got the pro.
I mean, there could have been the crazy. I mean, another crazy story to be you go pro that event, you play Bad Company in the finals in pro. I mean, anything could happen, right? I mean, at
He'd
that
be
point.
still mad about that and wouldn't have invited me today.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think back, so the Dynasty and Image had a similar thing where they went through the entire prelims without losing a game, and then it comes down to a one-on-one, and it's Opie versus I don't know who, and Opie gets shot. So Image ends up losing, not making it to the semifinals by one body. So they shot, out of a possible 80 people, they shot 79 people, and Dynasty only shot 80 people. And
Yeah.
Only 80
But I
people.
mean, but Dynasty moves on and becomes Dynasty,
Yep.
right? They become, it was like I think their first time making the semifinals or Sunday Club, and it was the first time Image didn't make it, and Image never really recovered from that. They broke up shortly there afterwards.
True. Yeah.
So that one body, and it literally comes down to a one-on-one where they're both just shooting each other, and we all know that could go either way, right? So if Opie would have shot the Dynasty guy, maybe Dynasty wouldn't be where they are right now, and Image
Say
would have
which
still
which
been.
Opie? This is Dave.
Yeah, Opie.
Well, I say I didn't know Opie from Dynasty or
Angry Opie.
Angry
No,
Opie.
well, I wasn't.
Even when he won,
He was angry.
he like
But I mean-
you'd walk by and say, thumbs up or down, and he'd go, thumbs up. I'm like, why are you mad? He's like, got shot by a chode. That's what he would say.
And and he was
Heard him.
he was a great back dude, right? He was the best dude. Like he was someone that I would want to have. I would want to play him one-on-one at the end of a game to decide if I was moving on to the finals.
Wow.
And it's just a little bit of luck in that. He comes over the top and gets shot in the goggles, and he was just like, and then Image wasn't the same after that. They were always a little volatile group to begin with, but yeah.
Well, that's a story for next week. Holy smokes. Okay, well, you just jumped to 95 and
I'm
all
sorry,
that
I went
happened.
all-
Because
yeah.
95, I know that
That
was
we
his
won our
first
first
pro
pro
win,
win.
but
Okay.
everyone else doesn't know. That's why I wanted to get into their first pro win and how they did that, because a lot of people don't realize that amateurs did play the pros. That was the cool thing at the time. Sometimes it was cool because sometimes you'd go out there and get beat to pieces.
Well, then the question there is, when did you go pro officially as Bad Company, and how many events did it take to win?
So we were always pro. So
Okay.
that's the weird thing. So when we started, there was only one division.
Okay, yeah.
So
That makes
basically,
sense.
we always played pro. And
Pro,
then as
amateur
they,
A, amateur B.
yeah. So then when they started creating new divisions, they never created a division for the existing teams. We were always just creating stuff for the new teams.
Okay,
but even in that time, we played everybody. So you'd go to World Cup, and there would be, let's say there's 180 teams. You would play 1 pro, 3 amateur A's, 6 amateur B's, or whatever it ended up being. And you just hope you won all your games.
Right. And had enough points to qualify. Okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, it was.
It was stressful back then because you played teams that you'd never heard of, and a lot of it was luck of the draw. Like we drew Far East Dragons 1 and Far East Dragons 2, right? So they play in Japan where they're not even allowed to have paintball guns.
Yeah.
So that's a good draw, right? But then you might draw Farside as your amateur team, which is a bunch of little dirt rockers from Chicago, you know what I mean, who are going to play tough and try and beat you.
If you got them on the wrong field, and you lost a coin toss and you got the wrong side. So
hey, everything you're saying, not to jump ahead too much, but that's how it worked out for X Factor at the ICC. I mean, our schedule worked out 3 Mounds games, 3 hybrid ball. 2 games are in the woods at the very end of the day on Saturday, and our last game's against Farside. We already know what the schedule's like.
Right.
And then we know going into the
semifinal,
going into the semifinals, we've got the pro Philly All-American team, the current pro team, in the woods the last game after we play the Mounds at the hybrid ball. So yeah, I mean, I can completely relate. I've played plenty of 10-man games, but just going to like a couple weeks ago for ICC is like the stars aligned for our schedule and our game set.
And that's what back then it was. You needed skill and a lot of luck at this and that's still today. You need skill and luck to win because it's just the way it is. Like you said, these shots that
I heard you need some friends that ref. Heard that too. I like how you said the Philly All-Americans were reffing.
Well, here.
Well, I meant that they were.
People complain about the refs, and I'm not going to say anything about them. Let's just bring back the pro teams reffing pro teams.
Well,
no, that's not.
Here's what I tell people: when people complain about refs, until they've got out there and got shot to pieces all day, you shouldn't be too critical.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not attacking refs. I'm just saying, like
back then, it was right. Avalanche would go to Chicago and ref with Aftershock because we would prefer not to have them ref us. So we went and refed Chicago.
Right. Well, yeah.
And like you said, everybody refed each other, but it was always you refed them. It was fair out there.
There was a lot of peer pressure to do a good job.
Yeah.
Right? You wanted to.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
No, for
everybody was always mad about the reffing before we started the NPPL, and Lively Production had outside referees. And so when we started, we wanted the best reffing, and we always felt like the pro teams were the best refs. And if you listen to the pros now, they're always quick to tell you how easy it is to go do the reffing job, yet none of them end up doing it. But you do? You've reffed?
An NPPL.
Yeah.
we can talk about that
just
later.
Think about how many of our peers have stopped to go ref, right? Through their entire career, all they do is complain about the reffing and say how good it is or how bad it is and how easy it would be if they would do it. And then when they get done playing, their first choice to spend their weekends is not to come back and hang out with Tom again and ref. It is not. It is let's go spend some time with the family or do whatever. So I think the refs have the toughest job in the world. And I've reffed a lot in my time, and I was just with Frank Connell this weekend, and I've made 2 horrible calls against Frank Connell in my lifetime. You know that he was right, which pains me even to say. But I mean, it's hard. You're trying to make split-second decisions with everybody yelling at you, and in my situation, everybody yelling my name. Tom, do this. Tom, that guy's hit. Tom, I'm not hit. You know me.
Yeah, you're never ref.
Yeah, I'm always Tom, and so you make these split-second decisions, and then you just have to look at him sometimes and say, "Yep, my bad." And Frank takes it well, amazingly enough. I actually suspended him once on a bad decision.
Yeah.
Well, he did just get like the Spirit Award.
Yeah, Sportsmanship Award.
When he got that, he said, I was like, wow.
Yeah, but he was great at the event. He was very positive, very,
Yeah, at the
whatever,
ICC.
So.
Well, so didn't mean to get sidetracked with the refs. I say in talking about 10-man, I think you guys gave everyone a lot of information. And the one thing that always surprised me when I got into it, because we play 10-man all the time at Badlands against Aftershock coming up, is no one reffed. And then we start playing the events and like, wow, these aren't refs coming in. These are actually pro teams reffing pro teams. And I can remember Excessive actually in 2004, we played 10-man. We didn't play X-ball and they reffed us. And I was like, this is kind of cool, but this is also how it used to be. So how crazy is it that Excessive is just making this huge scene in paintball, but they're not even playing this event, they're reffing it, and they're reffing 10-man. And I was like, this is kind of cool.
It did 2 things. It gave you those points that you needed, so it was basically a win.
Yeah, basically
and
a win.
Again, all the teams reffed each other, so like Tom said, you had to do a good job. The pressure was on there because if you didn't and you went to so-and-so's event, you might feel it. It might sting here and there. So
no, for sure.
And that's the way it was, and you just accepted it, and you didn't complain about it where again, I don't want to get into some of the people what they complain about. They don't know how detailed it is and how hard it is to ref until they've done it. So
yeah, no, I can't imagine. I mean, we do pretty good close-ups of Solom and Bruno and other people when they get fired up. Todd Martinez, and just letting people have
and
it.
all three of those guys know. They know
they've been
more
there.
than
They've been
anyone.
there, yeah.
How
and
difficult
I
it
guess
is.
for me too, that the one thing is that was the last one big connection I had with 10-man as paintball evolved, because after 2004, that was it. We don't think there were any 10-man. It kind of went away from the PSPs.
But I don't think we were reffing anymore in 2002. I think that stopped.
Yeah, that stopped
at when the PSP.
Well, that's what was so cool
split.
for me. I was like, wow, that's Matty. There's Nikki Vegas. There's Rich Telford.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
So now we're moving towards.
Yep. So, all right, we'll move into the speedball era. So it was an interesting system that we had back then, because as the NPPL, we were the promoter of the events, or not the promoter, but we were the, what do you call it? The
management?
No, each league was run by its own thing. We basically sanctioned the events.
Okay.
So we wrote the rules. We would get together and decide what rules we wanted, how the prize package was going to go, how the entry fees were going to go, and we supplied the referees for the events. And then the tournament promoters basically ran the events. So Rennick, Dave, the Gardeners, Urban Assault, they would run the events, and each one of them was an independent event. And so we're fast forwarded to my demise at the NPPL and the end of the NPPL. So at that point, so keep in mind, I'm friends with, you know what I mean? Like, I've grown up with all these people, right? Like, so we were all in this together, and then it started to become somewhat adversarial between me and the promoters, shall we say, right? So you got, and I think back and I see their point of view now, right? Obviously, I'm a promoter now, so, but I think how they would see
full circle. I heard that.
How they would see it was coming, you know, because here I am, you know, I'm just a player, right? And I'm never seem to be happy with what product they're giving me, right? So, and they've built this. They've spent their money and their time and their sweat, and I just showed Dave, right? Dave Youngblood is out there like mowing and building fields and raking. He still rakes today, but you know, he's out there putting, you know, Shaner and all those guys are doing whatever they can to build it, and it's with his money, you know, to build that California event, for example. And then I come in and I say, hey guys, you know, we're going to create this system where I can take one event. But anyhow, I'll give you the system that I came up with that ended in demise. So we have each of these guys running events, and some of them would be good and some of them would be bad. So we would never know what kind of quality we would get.
Sure.
And so you could show up at an event, and they might have one porta potty, and it was under the same brand name as the World Cup, which would have, you know, which would be a proper event, let's say. And the prize packages were just random, right? Like the amateur guys, I get complaints because I'm the president, so I get complaints, and Team Strange wins the tournament, and they get one gun. You know, how do you divide a gun up amongst 10 guys, you know? So these are the complaints.
Wouldn't want to be the president in that situation.
Yeah. So I go back to the promoters, and I'm trying to come up with a system to say, look, we're gonna grade each of the tournaments. And we're gonna agree, you and me, the promoters, are gonna agree what we're expecting. So if there's 10 teams, we want 10 porta potties, basically a porta potty per team. I always use the porta potty example because that seems to be black and white to me.
It seems pretty simple.
So they lost their minds, right? They were like, no, not gonna happen. And I said, well, if you don't fulfill the agreements in a year, then we have the ability to move another promoter in, which made sense to me. They did not see it that way. And I think they were afraid that I was going to bring in National Paintball Supply or WDP, who were both financially sound, and they were part of, you know, trying to bring in more events. So we had a meeting and a big brouhaha, and I'll throw Lane under the bus here. So Lane's on my side. Lane is on our side of the table. He's like the amateur council leader or something, or maybe the pro team leader. I don't remember what he was at the time. So it's me, him, Chuck, and Paul Adler's on one side, and you got Jerry Braun, Dave, Rennick, and the Gardeners on the other. It's a great group. Right?
Oh man, what a table that would.
So we're negotiating this stuff, and I'm a PowerPoint guy, so I got everything ready, you know, and so I give it to them, and they're obviously mad, and I'm confused, right? And they're taking lots of shots, you know what I mean? They're like mad, and so I'm like, screw you guys, you know what I mean? Like, you guys are the ones that wanted me to do this so that we could get to where we are. And now that I'm asking for it to be better, whatever. So I get mad, and I can get salty occasionally. And most people don't see that side, but I do get salty occasionally. And I'm like, screw you guys. You know what I mean? We're out. We'll go our own way. And so I leave, and Rennick comes and calms me down. So we get back to where we're actually at a meeting again, and then I leave, and we go have a talk amongst ourselves. And I start calling money people. You know, I call WDP, and I call National. And I'm like, hey, if this goes to crap, are you guys willing to step in and do an event? Of course, everybody's making money hand over fist back then. So they're like, yeah, no problem, whatever. You know what I mean? Richmond, you know, they'd have been great. Yeah, let's do this. So I come back in the next morning, and I'm feeling a little better about my position. And they have created the PSP that evening, which means that they are all going to vote together.
Okay.
So I cannot, if I ask one of them to leave, all the other 4 would leave, which is a brilliant move on their part.
Yeah.
And then Lane gets and sits on their side, and I'm like, whoo. And they're like, well, he's like, I now work for them. So they hired him in the middle of the night.
Wow.
Away from us. And there might be a different version of that story. That's just the one I remember, you know. So I'm sure Lane has a different version of that. But he was just a volunteer on my side, right? I can't blame him, right? They offered him whatever, $50-some thousand a year or whatever it was, you know. Might have been $10,000 a year. It's better than what we were paying him, you know. So he was over there now. So anyhow, so I was frustrated, and I think they were frustrated with me, and I think my own guys were a little frustrated. So I ended up stepping down shortly thereafter because I always felt like we were working together. And when they got so mad at me wanting to change some stuff, you know, I took it a little personally, you know, I mean, and they're my friends, and I don't like arguing with my friends either. So I was like, look, maybe I've been doing this for too long, and we've got too much history. So I stepped down, and then Chuck Hench took over and became president because he was our vice president. And that arrangement didn't last a year before the PSP and the NPPL split sides and went on about their ways. Mm-hmm. And I think back, and that's probably one of the worst mistakes we made as an industry, right? Because when we had that split, we had a civil war that went on for the next 10 years between the 2 leagues.
Yeah, it was about 10. Yeah, that's right.
And you know, now I'm older and more patient or whatever, and both sides were right and both sides were wrong, right? So we should have spent some more time compromising, not just my way or the highway, and we should have fixed it. So to me that's crazy. Just hearing that, I've never heard a story like that before. They were tons of fun back in the day.
And that's where we started.
Tons of fun.
That's where X-Ball started.
That's when X-Ball started, and 10-man kind of went on its way, and 7-man went. And, you know, on one level, it was good for paintball. I mean, I look at the numbers now, and you know, there was a lot of people playing back then, and there was a lot of money being made. But the industry basically split upon itself and started spending money that we had at the time, but we weren't reinvesting in the bigger picture. We were investing in tournament paintball, which I appreciated, but that money's gone now, and I don't think anybody's getting it back. So, and it was good. So I think the war created some stuff. You know, we started going to venues. We stopped going to less cool places, right? And started going to like Disney and Huntington Beach, you know, which neither one of those options could have been inexpensive.
No, you're right. Once that started, that trend happened, and now that leads into coming into where we are now with the NXL. We're at venues all over, obviously the United States, and obviously now NXL overseas in Europe. But so jumping into that real quick, do you think the split between X-Ball and 7-man, do you think that was good long term, or where we're at right now, or how do you see it? Because like you said,
do you think it's unavoidable? Yeah. Like at some point, the way it sounds to me is that something was going to happen. It was building.
You know, I'm torn. So I get afraid anytime there's just one league, and of course I'm saying that now with just one league, right? And everybody's always got this mantra of we need one set of rules to make things work, and you know, the NPPL had some good ideas, and they had some neat stuff that they did where they went to these, you know, they spent a fortune, you know, but they went to these venues and they kind of brought that outside buzz, you know, like a monster truck type feel, you know, where they had the commentators and all that stuff. And the PSP kind of stuck with the core of what the players, you know, the hardcore players wanted. And like I said, I think both sides had their points, right? And I even remember I was on the NPPL side, right? So I went with the NPPL, but I remember going to a PSP event, and the guys I was with, and I think I don't remember who the group was, but it was an outside group, and they were just picking on the PSP, like they don't know how to do this and they don't know how to do that. And I'm like, well, they have like 280 teams, so you know, maybe we should be questioning what they're doing right instead of sitting here pointing out everything they're doing wrong, you know. So I think we needed that, you know, because it made all of us think harder about what we could do to improve the game. It was easy to get things static, you know what I mean, when you're just the big bad wolf, and whatever you decree is going to be the way. But I think we'd have been way healthier if we would have just stayed together. Looking back, right? I never personally agreed with the hour-long format that we had back then. I always thought it was going to be too expensive.
Yeah. That was crazy.
And so, yeah, it was crazy, right? It was crazy. I couldn't have afforded it as a team captain. So some of it was selfish, right? I had to fund the team. So I'm like, we're going from 10-man to 7. I just saved 30%. Right?
Yeah, the simple math, man.
Budget, right? So it was good, you know. And I think both groups kind of melded together to what we are today, right? So PSP had its pluses, the NPPL had its pluses. We kind of melded them together. And I just watched a show. I think Darren actually turned it on to me about the NFL. What was the split with the NFL when we had that other professional football league that came around for a little while?
The USFL,
The
United
USFL.
States Football League.
And, you know, they did a lot of show and they did a lot of flash. And now the NFL has used a lot of that to improve their thing. So I think, you know, in the end it worked out okay, you know, but maybe we went through 10 years of...
You're still here as president.
I'm still here as president, yeah.
So now we're here.
Of the NXL.
Of the
Now
NXL.
it's 2000. It's 18 right now, but let's go back to when the NXL started.
2015.
15.
Is that what
So
you say? That NXL?
That's when NXL started.
Just
so,
checking.
So the PSP ended, NXL started. Now you're sitting there going, what am I doing now again?
Yeah, and there's a lot of stories about the whole NXL PSP merger / whatever thing. But we, you know, from my point of view, we were working on a merger, a purchase, right? We were going to purchase them, so we were going to get their venues. So I think within 4 weeks or something before our first event, you know, we decided that we were going to go a different way, and so I had to try and find 4 venues
Chicago
for the year. Huh? Yeah. Did we drop Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the first year?
Cleveland.
Cleveland was a good choice. I still going to defend that, but we did Cleveland, we did Virginia Beach, we did. Was that the first year?
Yeah.
And then we did Orlando, the World Cup, and the World Cup was clutch, right? I literally went to Orlando like 4 times before I found a venue, and it was great. It was stressful, and then we ended up with that venue at the last minute. So it was definitely a refuse to lose moment. So yeah, I felt good about it. And it's been a great venue for us. So
it's been fantastic, especially, and I think moving it farther back in the year.
It's close back to where we started, 1994. That's where we started.
It's like a mile away.
And we were playing on the other side of 192.
So I'll give you another funny story. So I'm meeting with this guy, and we're at the Gaylord Palms, and everybody's in suits, and they got their lawyer guy there, and I'm there trying to put on a good show to say paintball is safe.
Were you wearing your white NXL shirt?
White NXL shirt.
Okay. I like the white NXL shirt.
You know when I'm serious is when it's got the white NXL shirt and the khakis. But so I'm trying to look professional, you know, and trying to convince these people that we're a legitimate business and we can, you know, play paintball on their property out destroyed and we'll actually pay for it later. And I keep the name of Century City is the name of the guy's company, and I keep thinking, where have I heard that name before? And then I put it together in the middle of the meeting, and I just blurted out. I'm like, so you own the water fountain on 192? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, and yes, every year when paintball comes in, you guys put soap in my fountain, and I have to spend money to clean it. And I was like, that's not us. That's the other guys. But yes, historically, every year during the old World Cup, they would take laundry detergent or some type of soap.
You would drive by.
Dishwashing detergent.
You'd see the foam.
And it would
just
foam out. And every time I would drive by, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to kill my guys. And then it says Century City right under it. So that's how I knew the name.
Yep.
And he's like, yes, that's my fountain. And yes, you guys do that to me.
I can remember my first World Cup seeing that, being like, I can't wait to do that. And we go back the next year, or the second year. It was in Orlando again, and they turned it off.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
They figured out that this isn't
paintball's in town.
off.
So point to everybody, before you destroy stuff, think we might be using that as a venue someday to make my life harder.
That's a great question. We got a question. Alejandro. Hi, Steve, Nick, Tom. As the NXL Europe or NXL Australia, have you thought about NXL Latino America? Ooh, that's a good question.
Great question.
Yeah, we're interested in going to Latin America. I mean, it's I'm going to say it's a challenge. You know, going to Europe has been a hardship. You know what I mean? Like it's tough, and it's got a different culture, and we come in, and you know, Americans are not loved everywhere all the time, and it's hard to come in and make that happen. And it's been a strain on my staff and myself. Right, we're now on the road. We went from 5 events in the U.S. with 1 currency to 9 events with like 6 different currencies. And so it's a lot of time on the road, a lot of time away from the U.S., and we don't want to drop the ball on our core business here in the United States.
Yeah, sure.
So we would like to make sure we had Europe up and running before we started into the Latin market. And I think the Latin market's doing well. One of the reasons we went into Europe is because we saw that the tournament scene was kind of struggling a little bit, and we were concerned it was just going to crash. So we wanted to go in and kind of prop that up and do a good service for tournament paintball in Europe. Latin America seems to be doing okay, but we're interested in maybe coming down there in the future and having an event.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I never would have. I actually, honestly, never even would have thought about Latin America as, you know, having a series or being an NXL Latin America.
Well, I'm sure you're getting like we're going to head to NXL Asia for the affiliate with David Gooch here in October, and we were there.
We were just there,
and they had 70 teams there. So, and Australia's got their championships coming up. So, people are playing the NXL format worldwide, and they want to play in other countries. So,
and it's good for paintball to some extent, because when we put that brand on there, they certain teams expect a certain quality of stuff, and it stops a lot of the infighting in the country, right? So like, we'll use Malaysia as an example. There might have been 4 leagues in Malaysia before we gave one of them our brand, and then once we give them the brand, it kind of brings everybody to that event. And like it or not, it's like a party, right? If you have 4 parties going on the same weekend and each one of them has 4 people, it's no good. But if you bring everybody together, then now you got a party. Now you got a party, right?
But I think the biggest challenge, I'm sure, for you is when you go to these other far parts of the world, it's getting everybody together at the same table and agreeing and working together and checking their egos at the door, which a lot of them won't do. So it's a battle, I'm sure.
It's hard, and that's the one advantage paintball has had in the U.S. is that it's always had an independent league that's not a part of another group, whether it be because a lot of times in these countries, the guys that are running the events are also running paintball parks, or they're running a distributor, and it just creates an in-bed
conflict
battle,
of interest.
Right? And so conflict of interest, but they want to grow paintball in their sport, in their area, right? But then they don't want to let in their competitors have a fair shake at it.
Absolutely.
So, and I understand it, but we haven't had that problem in the U.S. The NXL, the NPPL, or the PSP has always been pretty unbiased. And so everybody feels like they can invest and send their teams, and that just helps paintball grow. Yep. And Asia has been good. You know, that we had those 76 teams, and he you know, he's passionate about paintball, and the teams seem excited. I mean, we go down there, and you know, we're a little bit like rock stars when we go there. People are taking our picture, and I mean, obviously because I'm hanging out with him, but
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah. I didn't get that the whole first couple times. People were saying that to me. I was like, maybe that's his nickname over here. I don't know. So yeah,
they asked me to wear some jean shorts, and I said, no, I'm not doing it, and I'm just not doing it. Yeah. So,
I don't want
all right, on that note, 2019. Do you guys have dates, venues that you're going?
Let's start with the U.S. Anything that we can.
You're breaking out that pen like I'm going to give you some.
No. Well, we just all recorded, so
will you have dates by World Cup this year? Do you, like, what's the plan? I know it's a tough cookie for you between Europe and the U.S.
It is. So we have all our dates basically picked out. We're just now signing deals with the venues over the next probably 4 weeks. Sorry. So we have the dates all picked out. We have the venues basically picked out. We're just signing contracts now over the next couple weeks.
Cool.
So we will be releasing the dates probably right before World Cup, if not at World Cup.
And is that both for
Europe and the United States?
Ooh.
Which I'm sure the world would love to have that.
I think that'll be the earliest the dates have ever been released.
So before World Cup?
Yep. I don't think they've ever been released at World Cup. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I guarantee they'll be released by the end of World Cup.
You guys heard him say it.
Guaranteed
dates before or the week of World Cup.
The week of before the end of World Cup.
Before the end of World Cup. Well, yeah, that'd be cool because we can actually be cool to do a little show to kind of announce it, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, I'm marking that down right now.
Oh yeah, you take the pen.
Go ahead.
World Cup.
You want to hand me my water back?
Oh yeah.
I'll try and steal it. Knock it over this time.
Yeah, have
all
some
right,
water.
So we have had a lot of people, and we posted up that you were going to be here. People asked venues that the NXL attended this year, are they going to be the same as next year? Will there be some changes? People I know, are you going back to Atlantic City?
People threw up a stink about it. I saw you had responded to some people on Facebook.
Yeah, it's one of the more frustrating things to do with the job. It's like you get a lot of messages that like Atlantic City was the worst decision you've ever made, and that it's the worst tournament ever, and you're like, but it was the largest tournament outside the World Cup in the past 10 years. So I don't know who's mad. You know what I mean? Like. Sure, if you're coming from California and you got to go to Atlantic City, maybe it's a bad destination. But if you live in the Mid-Atlantic, the Atlantic City is a great destination. So we try and evaluate all of our destinations, and the first thing we got is attendance, right? So that's the first gauge I go by how much do people like the venue. And we had a lot of teams in Atlantic City, so we went back a second year. We are interested. I just met with Atlantic City last week. They told me that because of the 2 new hotels that have opened up,
Hard Rock, right?
The Hard Rock and another one, I don't know. They opened up right where we're at on that other side. And they said it has been a completely different vibe downtown.
Nice.
So they've actually invited us back up to come check it out. So we're going to go look at it and see if what they're saying is true. If not, we are looking at an alternate venue of Philadelphia and then the D.C. area. And I can't give out too much.
No. I get it. I never had a problem with Atlantic City.
Yeah.
I mean,
it doesn't feel the safest, I'll be honest. You know what I mean? Like, we're staying, and everybody complains about the hotel pricing, and I'm like, so I know, right? Because when you guys buy 5 hotels, I'm buying like 100. So I don't want to go to a place that's got expensive hotels.
Well, yeah, I think that's a big thing. I like that you said that because I don't think people understand that it's not just Tom Cole operating as Tom Cole. It's the whole
Yeah, so
NXL.
I'm super
Good
sensitive
staff.
to hotel prices.
And you do have
refs.
you have teams that are driving in, they're scraping all their money together, so they want to get, and they're willing to drive. Back in the day, we drove an hour away from the
venue to get
so
our
that's
hotel.
just
Well, yeah,
that
look
was
at any
the
Chicago
average.
event. You were never in Chicago. You were 45 minutes to an hour
Exactly.
in Joliet or
Right.
the Badlands or wherever else.
Correct.
Well, yeah,
So
Maywood.
that makes sense. So, all right, that's
So
fair.
we're trying, and that's and we do try and take the feedback. And Atlantic City's probably the most complaints I've ever gotten out of a venue.
It definitely spiked this year.
Now
Maybe
some of
people
it is, and I got to take, we'll use it as a grain of salt. So I use Greg Pauly as an example. So Greg Pauly plays all 5 events and been playing all 5 events since, I don't know, forever.
Right.
So what his needs are out of a tournament venue is different than my guy that's going to play 1 event a year and
Absolutely.
lives in the Atlantic. So yes, of course, like I said, it's probably a hardship to travel from Dallas and fly to Atlantic City and then have to play there and not like the venue and all that stuff. But to the local guys, that's a very convenient location. I think we're like 5 hours from 60% of the U.S. population in that location.
The demographic.
So it's huge, and it's been the biggest event that we have, other than the World Cup. So
Can't go against the numbers, it looks like.
you can't go.
Well, how
against
about
numbers,
this? People ask this: East Coast. Maybe there would be a West Coast event. Maybe like California coast.
but We don't count Vegas as the West Coast.
I'm just trying to get as much out as I can. That's if aside from people complaining about Atlantic City, which I think is ridiculous, because if you look at the numbers, like you said, I think that speaks for itself. But a lot of people say
we'll dig into this. So I would love to do a West Coast event, California event,
aside from
Vegas. 2 events on the West Coast is probably a lot. Like if you think about it, like the bordering states to California and even California itself, there's really only those 2 huge population bases. And when you look at people driving, my next big group of people
Vegas.
is not till Dallas. No,
Dallas,
Vegas
okay,
isn't that
okay,
that many
yeah.
people. And if you look historically at dates and locations, like everybody mentions Vegas, Phoenix. Let's go back to Phoenix. Phoenix had 119 teams.
yeah, tiny.
Like tiny. When you start comparing that,
And it's hard to go there at that time of year with spring training.
everything
You know,
goes
the
up.
Otherwise,
hotels-
it's just hot anyway.
and that's what a 119 team tells you. It tells you how hard it is. So we're at Vegas. We end up with 190 teams, or I can go to, Phoenix and have 119. Those are scary
The
decisions.
scale.
And people make good arguments. They're like, well, you want cheaper hotels, and maybe we should go back to like a Cleveland or a Nashville, right? And maybe the numbers would spike now that the NXL is a stronger brand.
Vegas is great. Just go a week before March Madness starts. That's all, if you can. That's all. That's just a hint.
Just keep in mind, March is a month, so it's hard to avoid March Madness by a week. So, yeah, and we did. We moved it 1 week.
Ooh,
All
that's
right,
a good question.
There's a question here.
All right, so yeah, we'll start
This
closing
is Roger
this down.
TK, who
Yeah.
just asked yesterday on Facebook to everyone else, is it really worth spending that much money to go to an NXL? How's it going, Roger?
Tom doesn't forget.
I
Tom
saw
knows.
that.
Rule changes, bunker kits. Will there be relegation for pro? Well,
I can
3
give all those
questions.
answers.
Yep.
so looking at any major rule changes? Is that like how about this?
Well, I can tell you this: we will not be changing the bunker kits.
Good to know.
We're going to try and use those for as long as we can. I know it's a hardship to the fields to have to switch them out.
Yep.
And the only reason we change it, and everybody thinks we have some type of incentive or financial incentive, we gain nothing out of changing the kits. We do it because we don't want the fields to get stale, and we don't want the players. We have guys playing, some of them playing 9 events a year on the same kit,
Yep.
and it gets redundant. They practice it for 2 weeks, they do some stuff. We are looking to do some rule changes, maybe. We were always looking to tweak the rules a little bit, but we will send stuff out before we do it. I'm going to pitch some stuff right at Chicago I believe we have a pro meeting there, and then we have an owners meeting. So I'm going to pitch some rule changes there, some tweaks, but I don't think anything major. And there is a relegation for pro. We're looking to relegate 1 team and move 1 team up.
So one team.
1 team.
1 team.
Okay, which I think was expected. I haven't heard any.
I think there was talk of 2, but I think
Yeah, there was.
the
there was
numbers
one
one.
moving up.
Yeah, the numbers.
Okay.
The numbers 1 for
because
sure.
this year you brought up.
a bunch.
Right, we
4.
brought up, yeah,
brought
and I'm super excited about the teams that we brought up, right? I mean, New York Elevation and
Scottsdale
New York
Elevation.
Extreme,
New York
Scottsdale
Extreme.
Elevation, and
There
New
you
York
go.
Extreme. I mean, I love the fact that those guys are doing so well.
Because especially when it was announced, there was guys out there, and we're not going to name
We will.
teams or players, but they were
Why
out
not?
there.
Who cares?
They were out there,
Yeah.
making it rough for those teams, and those teams have did well this year. They made Sunday, so no one expected that. So good for them, and it's good for the league because it shows that a team can come up, and yeah, it takes 2, 3, 4 years to get the confidence to handle playing the dynasties, the impacts, the ACs,
And-
X Factors. But
And those guys are a dream to talk to. You know, they're excited about paintball again. You know, so we need that excitement to kind of keep the pro thing going. I mean, you know, some of the dynasty guys I've known for 20 years now. You know, and they, you know, we're all, I don't want to say a rut, you know, but we're doing our routine, right? And then you bring in these new teams, and it kind of mixes things up a little bit. And I was excited. I was super happy those guys did well. And
And now in the semi-pro bracket, you have Mutiny, Aftermath, and NRG Elite all fighting. I'm sure there's a few other teams there I've forgotten, so I apologize. But they're fighting to get that spot to go up, and it's a tight race right now going into Chicago.
Right.
So,
no, I mean, I think it's been great.
All right, so we just answered some of the questions that were on here. NXL Europe.
What do you got? You already said you didn't announce the dates.
Yeah, we're going to announce the dates. Doesn't mean we're going.
I just wanted to go
Just
back
gonna
at
have
him
the
one more
dates.
time. All right, we're going to get off there. Let's go on to something exciting. Tom Cole's dog. Let's talk about.
I'm not going to lie. When I heard the door chirp and open, I heard Tom's voice. I thought I heard a jingle, but I think it was Mike Argento's dog and not Tom's. And I was like, oh, he brought the dog.
Yeah, we chose not to bring the dog.
Will the dog be in Chicago?
The dog will not be in Chicago. The dog is now a World Cup only dog.
World Cup only?
World Cup
Or
only.
10-man events?
Or 10-man events. Anything I drive to. That's the kind of budget we were on when we first started the NXL. I was driving to everything. So I brought the dog. Now
That's good to know.
Now they're letting me fly. So that really, like,
It complicates
I
things.
used to drive to everything. So
Sure.
now I
Okay.
don't drive. So that's how far we've moved up in the world.
Yeah, and with the stories from airlines and taking pets, I wouldn't drive with. I fly
I'm
with my
not
dog.
taking. Yeah, Sam doesn't play the airline thing. He doesn't do that so well. So
Well, unless we have any more questions for Tom from our chat, we will. What do you got? Biggest question there. Where do you see paintball headed in the future? So say, the next. Yeah, that's a big question. That's a pretty big question.
So how candid do I be here? So, I mean, my gut instinct is I think we've made the game a little too complicated and a little too expensive. We've been chasing this TV dream for a while, and I mean, in the end, our current format isn't that spectator friendly as it is. And I waffle a little bit because I watch a game like the Russian Legion playing Impact. That game was epic, right? I'm off running trying to track down the Russian national anthem because they're going to go to the finals. And when I come back, Impact has come back from a 6-1 deficit or something to come back and win the game. So those games are kind of epic, but we've really created an expensive format, and the way we do stuff is just really expensive. So, and in the end, the players and the teams and the industry pay for that, and if it's not sustainable, then that's a challenge. So we need to find ways to kind of make it more affordable for the players while trying to keep the level of play that we're at and what the people are expecting. And that's the challenge, right? We've created something, and it's beautiful. You know, the pros walk into this, this bleachered VIP area, and they do all this stuff, but all that costs money, and so we just need to find.
Do you think that teams lowering the time would help them at all, or are they opposed to that? Are you hearing good or bad to that part? Because
I get both. So, you talked about Aftershock. They would love for the games to be a little shorter, right? I mean, I'm just going to use sprints, right? So if I got to race you too, right, and you beat me 3 times, I don't need to keep racing you to find out that you're going to keep beating me.
Yeah.
So when and I'm going to just throw Aftershock under here because he's been texting me the whole time I've been on the call or the thing. If you got to Aftershock and you got to play Impact, if I play them my first point, I might beat them, right? Bruno will come up with something and do something crazy or something genius and win a point. But you put the best guys out there over and over and over again, that Impact's going to end up winning. And as much as we've tried to design something that the best team always wins, I do think we need to have some underdogs. The NFL is powerful because of the underdogs. And I just watched the Miracle on Ice the other day, and that coach's speech really resonated with me when he said, if we have to play the Russians 10 times, they're going to win 9, just not this time. Well, we don't have that speech. We might beat Impact this time, but God, they're going to get mad, and they're going to come back, and they're going to beat us really good after that. So, we need to mix it up a little bit, and so I think the shorter games definitely increase that.
fair.
I agree. I know your pitch, so I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lobbying this for a year now, right? Because I can see the numbers and I know what's going on, and we've done really well. The economy's doing good, and everybody's. My number one call I get is, you need to fix this. You need to fix paintball. You need to do this, and it's relentless all day, every day. And my reply back is we're the biggest we've ever been. Tournament paintball has never been as big as the NXL is right now. We did, just in the U.S. alone, we did over 1,150 teams last year. That's huge. That's bigger than it's ever been, even back when we go back to the 2002 heyday. And so, am I concerned that there's trouble on the horizon? Possibly. But right now, I mean, we're sitting strong.
How's Chicago looking?
Chicago is going to be up from where it was last year. I think we have 180 teams paid as of today. So last year we did 186 altogether. So that's good.
Nice. And that's coming up the 13th through the 16th of September. And I think registration, the prices just went up, but it's still open. So you guys want to play, to me, was always, I mean, being in my backyard was the biggest event for me because my family would be there. But yeah, go ahead and sign up for that. And I'm guessing Chantilly, the registration's probably still open as well.
Yeah, the registration for Chantilly is still open, for sure.
So, and I mean, yeah, unless you hit your cap, you're not going to I wouldn't turn anyone away.
We got a question there.
You got a question?
Curtis Kearney, will NXL bring Pro 10-man back?
Well, it's not like it's gone. I don't think you'd have a. I'm not trying to answer this for you, but pros are playing anyway.
Yeah,
guys that get knocked out.
I think he means.
No,
like
I understand what he means. I mean, no.
Don't be so jumpy.
No.
On that. So I think I love 10-man. Right. So one of my deals with the job was
you just got back from ICC.
I just got back from ICC.
We didn't touch on that, and you guys made the top 4. So how was that?
Top 4. It was fun. It was good. You know, it's going back to the old place. I think Tim did a great job with the ICC. It's good to see all those old people back. And we were super happy, right? Because I basically have my old Bad Company guys, and then we picked up some new people from OBR, which currently play in the league, like in, I'm going to say D3, but I'm not sure what division they play in. And then here we make it all the way to the Final 4. And I was happy. So we had to play X Factor, AC Dallas, and Infamous. Oh, yeah, is that right?
Yeah, that was it.
Infamous. 3 current NXL Pro teams in the finals there. It was pretty good. You know what I mean?
Except that you didn't play.
I skipped one game, just your game.
Tom skipped one game, the only game that mattered to me.
Were you out of the running for that game?
We were out of the running, but we wanted to come in third. We did place ahead of Infamous, Trav. Trav's shot. Did place ahead of Infamous, which was really my goal. I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah.
You finished.
Well, the only reason why, and I know we're going to have to start to wrap up here, the only reason why I jumped on saying no is the one thing, and Rab and I have talked about this with the ICC, is that now you see 3/4 of the final teams are actually, the names are pro teams. X Factor was a true pro squad, fully pro squad. Other guys had a mix. But are they going to have to relegate that now to where you're going to say, hey, it's open to anyone? So if you're going to say there's pro 10-man, does that mean if I play pro 10-man, my rank is now, for ranking purposes, going to be ranked pro, and I can only play pro X-ball? So is that going to be limited to the top 200? If there's 20 X-ball teams,
400 questions in there.
But you know what I'm saying, though, right? Like, ranking defines you. Like, I can't go to my local event and play Division 3. I'm ranked too high. There are rules there. So now if I'm playing pro 10-man, how does that affect my rank?
So we currently, at least with the APPA, work on a deal where the Woods Ball events or the classic events aren't carrying the same
but that's you see the separation. This is a pro 10-man, and again, this is we don't have enough time to kind of dive into that. That's just the reason why I jumped to say no. Right now, you're probably not going to see a pro 10-man. I think that the fact that it's open and anyone can play with anyone, and you've got guys having the best of times to play at the NXL is amazing.
All the old guys on the team, and they picked up a few young guys because you needed that. I played with Shock Tech Fighters, and we needed 2 more young guys. We didn't have enough young guys.
If I look
to play against X Factor and AC and show that footage, Darren. Show that footage of Tom running down the field. He says he wasn't hit, but anyways.
I got a video of Tom running down the field at the Gunfighters one. Fight Club, the first one at Badlands. He got cheated.
Where I went down the snake.
Yeah, the guy ran like at the netting. Anyway, story for another time. Yep. We want to say thanks to Tom Cole for being here.
For having me.
Really quick, the Hawaiian Legends game's coming up. Rab, you're going and you're heading out there. That's a big game going on in Maui. Maui Paintball is going to be epic. You guys can check that out. The CPPS event is going on in a few weeks. The first weekend, I think the 9th, 8th, 9th, and 10th of September.
8th and 9th, the CPPS.
The Almost Famous Paintball League's happening. That's an affiliate for the NXL. You just wrapped up a UWL, and that should be the last.
It's the last one of the
of the season. So that just went down. But we thank you guys for tuning in here with us on our GI Sports Live show. From all of us here.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks
Tom, everybody for tuning in. And don't forget, you can listen to this on iTunes podcast.
Yeah.
Boom.
So thank you guys, and we'll see you soon in the future. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe not.
Maybe.
Maybe.